Welcome. This is definitely gonna be a more informal video, but the intention is to just do a bit of VOD review and help out a newer player. So as for the backstory of why I'm doing a VOD review, I was scrolling through Reddit and there's this post right here, 4 hours ago, where someone is just struggling with the game. See, now I've been in this position. Like when I first started playing this game, there's definitely a lot that you have to think of, and it's definitely really overwhelming. And it really does suck when you're struggling and you don't know like what you're doing wrong. But like I've already watched some of the games, but obviously we're gonna go through some of these games even more. There's a lot of mistakes that are really holding this player back. Because I don't want the video to be too long, I might just go over like one or two videos. Obviously I'll try and like speed them up, but very first thing, we can see they're following a save plan, which is good. For some of their games, like these Rio games, I don't see a save plan ID, which makes me believe that they're using their own build. And if you're using your own build, I'm not trying to discourage, but since you just started the game, you probably don't understand all the different stats and what you really need. Also, probably don't understand quick and efficient pathing. I'm not trying to like flame or anything or like jump to conclusions, but seeing as you probably only have like less than 100 hours in this game, I think it would be easier to just follow a save plan. Like here in these games, I think this one's Age of Automata's build, because I searched up the save plan ID, but you don't want your build to hold you back. Otherwise, that's just one more thing that you have to worry about when there's already a lot on your plate. Now, also, I do want to mention, it's definitely good to play around with all the different characters. Find a character that you like and definitely play them. Stick with the same character and the same build and just play that like over and over again until you eventually get better. Because aside from like combat and like farming and everything that you should be doing in the game, you don't want your build or your character to hold you back. Like this is definitely a game that rewards one tricking like really highly. So you essentially just want to be able to play the fights as best as you can. Obviously, like play the character that you like the most and the build that feels the most comfortable, but keep in mind that some characters are harder than others. I see 15 games of Adriana here. Did me as a Adriana main myself. She is very unforgiving to new players. It takes a while. But as I said, Adriana really is unforgiving for new players, so just keep that in mind. If you're gonna play one of these more difficult characters, then it's gonna take you a long time to get to a reasonable level with them. I don't know how many games it took me to get somewhat reasonable at Adriana, but definitely over 100, maybe 200. Probably even more, who knows. Play an easy character that you like and focus on learning the game mechanics rather than specifically that character. Because you want to focus on your core understanding of the game rather than character mastery per se. So now once you have that base understanding, that's when I'd suggest, playing whoever you like, regardless of how difficult they are. It's the same principle with like any other MOBA. In League of Legends, people suggest if you're learning a role, play like one of the easiest characters who are probably like tanks or just don't require a lot of skill to play. That way, you focus more on just learning the core foundations of the game and how to like actually play the game rather than how to play your character. And I'm sure just how long I've been talking about things outside of game and not even raw gameplay just gives you an idea of just how much goes into this game. It's not just a game of, mechanical skill. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. Okay, so this is the save plan, the build they're going. I really wouldn't worry too much about what they're saying. Honestly, it's a pretty good guide because the whoever made this even went through like he gave you information on what you should be doing, so it could help to read this, but I guarantee you most save plans will not have this. I know you only have one game on Kyra, so you're probably not a Kyra. So the build is Hotel, Pond, Avenue, Alley. Definitely, I will say this beforehand, from what I've seen, you do need to work on your build completion times, because there's several games where your build is done after day 2. Okay, let's actually get into the VOD review. So far, nothing is insanely wrong, but I do want to point out, if you're gonna be hunting early on, which I know you should be, just for the leather, but at least use your abilities. This is something I've found like is very prominent in your gameplay. When you're hunting early on, you don't use your damaging abilities, which is wasting time, because you could kill things a lot faster if you did use your abilities. Like standing here and auto attacking is just, again, waste of time. Like, I know you don't want to waste your SP or your cooldowns, but trust me, they come back up and you don't even need to worry about them. I do want to point out that killing the first chicken, again, makes sense because you need that leather, but killing the second chicken is a bit questionable. Because again, you don't have any items. All you have is your rapier, which gives you 16 attack power, which that's not a lot. Like early game, you definitely want to be like, you want to be very meticulous with managing your time. You don't want to be wasting any time at all. And also, I know you probably watched a lot of guides where they say like hunt as much as you can. Yes, hunt as much as you can, but try and finish your build. Like your build comes first in terms of priority. Like you'll be able to hunt a lot of animals after your full build, and you won't be harming yourself. Because here you are definitely harming yourself by hunting more than one chicken. And it's not just this one, and you do this a lot. Even when you're not full build and you're really behind, you tend to like farm a lot, which it's not the worst thing in the world, but you are harming yourself because it's better to just finish your build ASAP. In terms of how like the weapon mastery works, because people say hunt animals so that you can increase your weapon mastery or your combat mastery so you can deal more damage. Combat mastery against animals is based on how much damage you deal. So early on, you're not dealing a lot of damage, so you won't gain as much weapon mastery for doing that. Something to keep in mind, because essentially all that means is that it's inefficient early on. I just want to point out, that was very efficient crafting right there. Crafted right after you teleported. Save yourself a bit of time. Another thing you could be doing is that you could be crafting when you get to each box, but I don't know if you can craft anything right now. You see, like, this is what I mean here. Instead of crafting right here while you're doing, like, just standing around, you could have walked to these loot crates and then crafted while you're searching the loot crate. I know it seems small, but those minor seconds really do add up. And also in terms of pathing, you were right here and you didn't bother to check these loot crates. Same when you were up here, you didn't check all these boxes around, if I'm correct. I don't know why you decided to walk down here, but it's, like, I'm sure maybe you're trying to path to a different zone, but it's definitely not as efficient. If you're already here, then you might as well check these crates, then maybe like go around this way so you can loot these areas. But like, I won't hound on the pathing too much, because it's just an experience thing. But you want to try and make your gameplay as efficient as possible. Here again, if you're gonna be hunting animals early on, then use your abilities so you don't waste as much time. And also, you have no reason to kill this bat right now. Focus on finishing your build. I just want to point out that I hope you're looking at your map, because here you could see, or if you're paying attention, you would have seen someone crafted their weapon in hospital. Is that like orange weapon icon that was on the map? Like, do pay attention to your mini map. Obviously, this one wasn't a game-changing thing. People are going to be crafting their weapon, which is like something to keep in mind. You do want to be paying attention to your map. I say this because there's a later point in this game where you have a chance to third party, but you don't capitalize on it. But we'll get there. Okay, this is gonna be like the last time I say it, but you're really hurting yourself. This is a complete waste of time, especially with boars, because I'm not sure if you know, but boars have more HP than chickens and bats early on, and they just take too long to kill. And also, they don't give you any items whatsoever. They give you meat and like maybe something you need, but it's not worth the gamble. Just you spent way too much time in pond here. Because as we know, pond is your second zone, so you could have already been walking to avenue and alley just to save time. Just want to say good job using console vision. Good job using the console here. Vision is important. Obviously, still focus on finishing your build. I know it doesn't take that long to use console vision, and at this point in the game, it may be like really useful, but you really want to be pinching for seconds here. I know they added the feature where you can see how many items are left in the zone, but it's good to like it's a good feature, but honestly it doesn't make that much of a difference because you still have to find whatever items that you're looking for, right? But again, just the raw vision is good, but keep in mind like it does waste time early on because ideally you're only going to be in avenue for like a couple of seconds, and then you immediately want to be heading over to alley so that you don't waste any more time. In terms of searching loot crates, I think going for the green loot crates are good because normally they tend to have food, and if you don't have any like food items, then they can be helpful. Obviously here you have the healing potions, which is nice, but again, it does kind of waste time. Your build definitely comes first, but definitely like once you're done your build or you're oh wow, look, there's a snowball stuck. But yeah, when you're done your build or you're close to finishing your build, it's definitely something that's good to do, you know, looking for these crates. But they're not that game changing because once you have enough food, then like it's not super necessary, but they are a good way to acquire food without crafting. Just wanted to point out that that would be a good situation to like actually farm, because yeah, your build's not done yet, but it took you like 2 seconds to kill those chickens, so it's not as bad. Obviously you still didn't use your abilities. You notice how it's just a lot faster and you're not wasting as much time. It's less harmful now than it was early game, but you've hunted 8 animals and honestly didn't need to. Because if you can look at the reference here, you have a level 6 weapon mastery, whereas Lennox has a level 5 and she's full build already. And if we look at her, she's only hunted 3 animals, right? Maybe she's fought other people, maybe, but it's not like. So my point here is that these animals that you're hunting early on are not making that big of a difference, since the mastery that you're gaining is based on damage and you're not dealing a lot of damage early on. Those seconds that you wasted early in the game have been adding up, because as you can see, we're in day 2 right now. And if we look at the rest of the lobby, there's several people who have either finished their build or they're really close to finishing their build. You can see Luke is almost done, Shoichi's done, the other Kyara's done, Fiora's done, Aya's done. This Rio only has 1 item left, and this Lennox is also done as well. And if you can see, like, some of these people even have kills too, so they've been able to finish their build and get kills. Meanwhile, you still have 3 items left to finish. I'm not trying to like discourage you, but like this is the reality of this game. Like seconds matter. You don't want your build or what you're doing early game to hold you back from fights, because ideally you want to get your build done and over with and then just go fight whoever you can, just so you can actually learn how to like improve your fighting skills more than your pathing and your farming. First of all, there's a couple things that need to be discussed here. Boom. Luke is full build. You probably should have died here. I don't know why the Luke didn't decide to kill you, because he's really strong early game and he's up like 3 items on you. Or almost. So you're on full build here, but at this point you have enough items where it could be a somewhat close fight. But look how much damage you deal to him. Like it's definitely reasonable. Like maybe running away is reasonable here, but honestly at this point, if this Luke capitalized on it, you would have been forced to fight. So I'd say just like limit test it, you know, because there's no need to be scared. Worst case scenario, you go back into like lobby, but since it's normals, you'll be able to like get back into a game pretty quickly. Because they're like, yeah, you use their abilities, but like you didn't use their ult. You know, I know you're not a Kyara main, so you don't necessarily like know what fights Kyara wins or not. But You know, there's only one way to find out, right? You just limit test it, you try. You failed, and so be it. Like this is what makes the game fun, you know, like figuring out which matchups you win, you know, learning how to like actually like, get better and like play the fights. Cause like that's what we're doing all this for. You want to finish your build as fast as possible so that you can just go ahead and start fighting people, you know. Like yeah, it's still a battle royale and placement matters, but trust me, it's more fun to get 3 kills and die in 10 minutes than it is to make it in top 2 with 0 kills, you know. And yes, that is a bit of foreshadowing. Okay. So here I have to ask, you're full build now, and you're still searching these boxes, which there's no issue there. But what's your game plan? You know, like this is where you need to be asking yourself, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to go around and kill the wolves? Are you trying to craft like components for upgrade items so that maybe you can get like the tree of life or the meteorite that's spawning soon? Are you playing around Omega so you can get a force core or Wickline so you can get the VF blood sample? You like always have a game plan. You see, I know you're here in hotel, so maybe you can get some binoculars and then potentially build telephoto cameras. Like maybe you're crafting more food. There's a lot of options on what you can do here. You know, you don't obviously just want to be like wandering aimlessly, but it's good that you're still doing something. You get gifted a VF blood sample by Nimble Neuron here. Like Aesop himself descended down to give it to you. And I just want to say that you die with this VF blood sample. If you get god tier energy like this, please capitalize on it. Go press your shop button. Look for items that you can build with the VF blood sample. Here, what could be good on Kyra? You go for Chinese opera mask, maybe the Burgundy 47, red shoes, sanguine gunby. I don't know if that's good on Kyra or not. Like any of these items would definitely be an upgrade over what you have right now. I think the Burgundy 47 would probably be really good because that sounds amazing on Crit Kyra. But this is something you need to capitalize on, okay? Force cores, VF blood samples, do not waste them. Please do not waste them. This is so important. It's a huge item upgrade here. Granted, it's forgivable since you won't always get a VF blood sample from a bear, but when you do, you best be building with it. Now, I just want to say, there's a couple moments in this game where you just wait in bushes. And by definitions, that would be considered ratting. And all you're doing is wasting time. You're wasting time. This time you could be using to hunt animals and increase your mastery. And it's not just wasting time for yourself, you're also letting other people get ahead. I think by the end of this game, you're like 4 levels down in terms of weapon mastery. So you could be fighting other people here, you could be doing other things, you know? Yeah, it's a battle royale and placement matters, but you're gonna burn yourself out playing like this. You know, you want as much action as possible so that you can actually like have fun. Because it only gets frustrating if it feels like you played a 15-minute game and you gain nothing from it, right? You might as well fight, die, and learn from that fight. You know, like it's the fastest way to improve. Like it's a battle royale, but ratting in battle royales is almost never good when you're trying to learn the game. If you're playing like a tournament and you're going for placement, then yeah, that makes sense. But in my opinion, it's just more fun to limit test. Obviously, there's smart limit testing, then there's just like reckless limit testing. But you know, you lose 100% of the battles that you don't take. See here, this is what I mean by ratting. You hear footsteps in the distance. I'm not sure if you guys can hear it, but there's footsteps that can be heard. This is someone that you could potentially be fighting. If we go to full vision, you can see there's a Shoichi here, like nearby. Granted, granted you can't see the Shoichi, but you can still hear him. You know that he's there. Here, if you're looking at the map, you see that there's a ping, right? So now there's no excuse for not fighting the Shoichi, right? Like if you really feel like you're behind and you're weak, like waiting the game out isn't gonna help it. So if you look here, the Shoichi only has a level 6 combat mastery. Granted, it's not like a huge difference since you only have a level 8, but this is a completely winnable fight for you. Like despite how the game went, you're not at a complete disadvantage in this fight. So what I'm trying to say is imagine if you went to go fight the Shoichi. You know, maybe you end up getting a kill. And here, honestly, at this point, this is when it's worth it to use console vision. You know, if you use console vision earlier on, like the Shoichi just did, you would be able to see vision of Beach, and then you get info on who is here. You know, you would have known that it was a Shoichi. Granted, like you'd still know someone was there, but this time you'd have info to like assess to see if it's worth taking the fight. Pretty much always is, unless they're just like super far ahead, which I feel like that rarely ever happens, especially this early in the game. I mean, I guess it's kind of like mid game rather than early game. So you get my point. I also want to point out one of the reasons why using abilities while hunting is good is because it helps you like get familiar with them. Like whenever I'm hunting and I'm playing Adriana, I use the animals that I'm fighting as like kind of like experience. You know, I practice using my combos properly. You know, it's just they're essentially a free punching bag, right? Like if you're gonna be hunting them, like you might as well improve your skills too. See, now personally, what happens to this mythical armor hurts me deep down. If we're comparing, like if you're going for a damage chest, then it's perfectly reasonable to not use the mythical armor. Just keep in mind, mythical armor is definitely a very good defensive item. If we just look at the stats, it gives you 60 attack, 60 defense, which is, you know, a lot more defense than the battle suit. And it also has the move speed and skill damage reduction, where in terms of like mythical armor versus battle suit, I think mythical armor is probably just a little bit better. You know, obviously there could be trade-offs, and maybe battle suit is better for this build, but generally if it's a defensive chest, I feel like it'll be worth the swap. Again, it really depends on the build, but here I think it would have been better to equip mythical armor, but this is a whatever, you know, it's debatable. Again, here might as well limit test it. I probably wouldn't have used my E blindly. I would have made sure that I actually like see the person, but if you're trying to like do a prediction play, then that's perfectly fine. Like, no need to be so scared, you know, might as well fight it. And here's what I mean by when I said you have a perfect chance to third party. There's pings on this map. I'm not sure if you know this, but there's no animals that spawn here, and you know that there's a Fiora in this zone, so she's probably fighting someone else, and if you go, there's a chance you can capitalize on it and get a free kill. If you go to full vision here, we can see that there's a Shoichi, there's a Lennox, there's a Fiora. Obviously I can see how many people are here, but I think it's worth it to at least go and check to see if you can get a kill. You know, because third partying in this game is really strong. Really strong. It's one of the easiest ways to pick up kills, because you can third party and end up with 2 kills for free. You know, imagine if you're here. This Fiora is literally yours. Again, you spend a lot of time in this bush. Too much time in this bush. So here we can see Wiccaline on the map. She's nearby. Obviously, we know that people are in hotels, so it may not be the wisest thing to fight Wick, but we know that the people in hotel are probably fighting each other because we saw the pings on the map earlier, and it may be worth it to try and like contest Wick here, just because if you get Wick buff, it gives you a damage over time effect, which really helps out during fights and can literally like win or lose you fights if you get it. If not for the buff, she also drops items. Funny enough, she drops the VF blood sample, which you can use to craft like some of the strongest items in game. And she also drops the medkit, which I'm not sure if it's guaranteed, if she's guaranteed to drop the medkit, but you can also craft a taproot with that, and those are pretty good because they increase just healing overall. even like from food. So they make a nice pairing. You know, imagine if you go Taproot and Burgundy, the Burgundy 47. Because the Burgundy 47 gives you lifesteal and the Taproot increases your healing, you know, so it's just a nice pairing. Either way, anything is better than just waiting in this bush here. So I'm sure in this scenario you probably weren't having too much fun anyways, right? Because you're not playing the game, you know, you're just here. And then we hear footsteps too, so we know that someone was there. I hope you play this game with like sound and audio. We also see a ping on the map. Like there's a lot of opportunities for you to like fight here. You can see, you would have known that the Lennox and the Shoichi were fighting because you saw the ping on the map, and you would have known that someone was walking by you since you heard their footsteps. So now you finally decide to go in, which at this point, if you went to fight some of these people earlier on, it would have been closer, you know, because at this point Lennox has 4 kills, Fiora has 3 kills, and as you can see, you're around like 3 to 5 levels down for against both of them, where at this point people can't really complain that, you know, they're like super far behind and it's really hard to like catch up in the game, because you've had multiple opportunities to, you know, increase your mastery to get some stats, but you wasted a lot of time throughout the game, and this is the result. You know, it's these small things that add up that slowly make you fall behind, so you need to make sure that like you're always on top of your game, you're always doing things, you know. Like after a while it'll become second nature and you'll just be able to like have a chill time while like farming, hunting, all of that, you know. But like definitely like you don't need to be so scared, like limit us, because even if you're like, even when you're this far behind, it's still like a relatively close fight, you know. Obviously you probably don't know how to like play Kyara since you only have 1 game on her. Like it's not terrible, like it's pretty close. You get her to like under half HP. See, like imagine if you fought like, I just want to say, like, imagine if you fought like this early on against someone who was even, you know, because like mechanically, like I don't think he like misplayed this fight or anything. Obviously I'm not a Kyara main, you know, and I'm not exactly focusing on like character specific gameplay, but like if you don't want me to like comment on your Adriana gameplay, I can, but it's an Adriana main, I won't hold back. But yeah, no, like imagine if you did this earlier when you're not super far behind, you know, like get your kills early, you know, you want to snowball if you can. Also, nice emote, I like that. I'm also gonna go over a bit of this Rio gameplay just because there's a very glaring issue that I need to talk about. Very glaring issue. Okay, right here. Camilo is engaging you. What are you supposed to do? The game has been going on for 1 minute and 6 seconds. You have your blue weapon, full inventory, so you still need to worry about finishing your build. What does Camilo have? Without even looking at his build, you know he has his gray weapon and a level 2 combat mastery, right? And he's going ironclad, which, I mean, that one's not too important, but he can't make use of it since he doesn't have his weapon skill. Look at his items. 8 attack power, 10% attack speed, 10 defense plus 3 defense from basic attacks. There's no way you die here. You never die here. There's no need to worry about it. Maybe you just like path away from him, but he does not have the damage to kill you. Maybe he's a new player and he doesn't understand how completely grief this is, because he gains absolutely nothing. As I've already said, combat mastery is based on how much damage you deal to animals and your enemies. He's not dealing any damage with his 37 attack power total. Okay, like you have no need to worry. Just continue farming. Maybe path away from him. Like you could like walk down, just continue like to path as you loot. But there's no way he kills you. Even if he does kill you, he's gonna lose the game anyway since he's wasted so much time. But this is just the start of the fight. You see how negligible, like, you see how negligible his damage is? See, now here's my issue. Here's my issue. He's disengaged. Why do you go back to attack him? This is playing with fire here. You've already seen that he was willing to grief a bit. Maybe like that wasn't that long, you know, it was only a couple seconds. So maybe he's just, you know, dealing a little bit of damage while he searches. But he doesn't want to continue the fight just based on his body language because he's looting this crate. So you could have walked down here, looted this box, and then walk up to the teleporter because I don't think he has any way of stopping you, even if he does stop you with his E, because his E can like knock you back. But there's no way he kills you, you know. So you can still teleport out, go to your next zone. Why are you still attacking him? Just leave it. This is completely grief. You're essentially screwing yourself over this fight. There's no need to fight for this long. Just leave, please. Like, I want to go as far as saying that this fight alone costs you the game, but not necessarily. Like, you can still come back from this, but it definitely did not help. Like, I just want to say, like, it's almost never worth it to fight like really early on in the game. Like, I'm talking like you have one item completed, like maybe. You know, obviously there are some characters that are really strong early game, like a Hyunwoo, who it might be worth for them to grief, but again, you really don't gain much other than kills. And even if you do get a kill, if you're playing ranked, you don't gain that much MMR. Because in terms of like MMR gains, it's based on kills and placement. So like if you kill someone early game, then you don't gain that much since you killed them like a couple seconds in, you know. Before you used to gain a lot more, but now they balance it out so that kills later on in the game have more of an impact than they do earlier on in the game. Just want to say, like, here's a game where the finisher build like somewhat quickly. Okay, not quickly, but you finish your build in like reasonable time. It's still really slow, but at least you're fighting early here, which is really props. Obviously you're kind of forced to since Yuki kind of jumped on you, but also, yo, do not I'm not a real main, but I know enough about ADCs or marksman type characters that you don't ever dash into a melee character unless you're guaranteed the kill. But you still play this fight pretty well, you know. So it's not necessarily like your mechanics that are holding you back, you know, or at least like in this fight, I don't think it's your mechanics that are holding you back. Obviously, like you didn't play perfectly, but more than anything, if you like finish your build like faster, you know, you would have had more of an advantage. But the thing that you did really nice here is that you're fighting early on. You know, it's still like it's night 3. You know, it's not that soon earliest you could be fighting, but like it's still pretty good. You know, it's better than going all the way to top 3 like you did in that Kyara game where all you did was wait in a bush. You know, obviously it wasn't all you did, but like you spent a bit of time waiting in the bush and kind of ratting around. You know, like fights like this, even if you did lose this fight, it's the best way to learn. Oh man, that Yuki damage. But like it's still decent, you know. Obviously I'm sure you didn't mean to walk back into him. I'm sure that was like just mechanical misplay. But look how low his HP is, you know, like really well done. You know, it was a nice try. Because this Yuki has 2 kills, but even then it's still like 11 to 8 in terms of combat mastery, and that's not the worst, you know. It's not like unlosable. It's not like 5 levels, you know. And sadly you do die here. But again, it's just do more of that. Take more fights early on, because that's like, again, best way to improve. Don't worry about placement. It's a battle royale. You're not gonna come first every single game, and placement, especially normals, like doesn't really matter. Just focus more on improving your skill as a player rather than just like ratting around. And also it's just more fun. Yeah, you may die, but it feels, as I've said before, it feels better to die early on like this, where you're like 8th place and you've only invested 10 minutes in and it was like a close fight, rather than it being like 15 minutes in, but you're 3rd place, but there's no way you can win the fight since the enemy player has 5 levels up on you in terms of weapon mastery. But yeah, I think that's it for the VOD review. Obviously, fairly new player. You don't have that many games on. Best advice I could say is just play the game more. This game takes a lot of refinement. You need to hone those edges. Make sure you're trying to be efficient in your gameplay. Try and aim to finish your build by night 1. If not night 1, then by day 2. Anything past day 2, I feel like is way too slow. It can definitely help to play the same character, play the same build, so that you don't have to worry about like managing your inventory, because the more you do that, the better you'll get at it.